Yo, what's going on guys? Jared here. With the North American Championship qualifier just around the corner, we have another deck that we need to discuss before the event comes. That is going to be Yubel. And I know we've been talking about Yubel on this channel for a little bit now, and I've had a couple of videos, some good, some bad, and my thoughts on it previously, post Legacy of Destruction. But now, with the new Battles of Legend and with the Infinite Forbidden set coming out, bringing the Fiendsmith cards along with it, we have a lot of new utility access for the deck. Both Fiendsmith and Phantom of Yubel are extremely powerful cards that solve a lot of problems with this deck, and as well as give it new bridges. So in this video, I want to go over just a sample deck list, one combo that I came up with, talk to you about another creator who has so much Yubel content that if you really want to deep dive into this, I highly recommend him, that I found while doing research for this video. And and overall, I hope you guys enjoy, and please subscribe if you do. So the creator I was talking about before was Trinity Yu-Gi-Oh! This is somebody who I keep stumbling upon every time I do research for Yubel and trying to find new combos and tech choices and things of that nature. If you are interested in Yubel and you really enjoy the deck and you want to know combos, this is definitely the guy to go to, and he has so many videos on his channel about Yubel in general, so please, I highly recommend, if you want to know more about this deck and you are playing it, this is definitely the channel for you. Okay guys, so here is my current deck list for the Yubel in preparations for the NAWCQ. The only new card that I need to read over for here is actually Phantom of Yubel. If you are more curious of the Fiendsmith cards, where all these OCG cards are, please regard my previous video talking about Fiendsmith in preparation for the NAWCQ. That's where I read over all those. But for this video, I'm just going to read over the Phantom of Yubel. So Phantom Yubel is a level 9 Dark Fusion Fiend monster. It takes a Yubel monster and a Fiend monster with 0 attack and defense, and it must be special summoned from the extra deck by shuffling the above cards from your hand, field, and or graveyard into the deck or extra deck. That is such an easy thing to do in this deck. I cannot stress it enough. Cannot be used as fusion material, so you cannot use this to make another version of itself. It also cannot be destroyed by battle, and you take no battle damage involving battles involving it. So of course it's like any other Yubel monster. And then lastly, when your opponent activates a monster effect quick effect, you contribute this card. That effect becomes your opponent destroys one Yubel monster in their hand, deck, or field. You can only use this effect of Phantom of Yubel once per turn. There was two things I need to notice here, is that the effect that modifies the effect to destroy something, there's no like restriction on that at all. So this is very heavily used to stop hand traps. You can make this very early in combos and to play around things like Nibiru, right? So this is something that is very important to look out for. Also, this is not a once per turn to summon, so you are only limited by the number of Yubel monsters and Fiend monsters with 0 attack and defense at your access, so you can just be throwing these cards out very consistently. So yeah, this is such a strong support card for Yubel. I really cannot stress it enough. Now, going over this deck list, I need to very heavily preface that for the NAWCQ, there will be no standard deck list. There is no standard Yubel deck list because, one, Yubel has not seen that much success, and two, the Infinite Forbidden set comes out that weekend. So we do not have a standard list. So that NAWCQ, the most important event of the year, will be creating the standard of the deck at the event as it's happening. So again, I have a lot of different cards in here, variations and stuff. So we need to go over the things that the deck can do and end on, and how you should kind of be playing around it and interrupting it. But firstly, let's go over the card by card. We have 2 copies of Fiendsmith Tractus and 3 copies of the Fiendsmith because this package is broken. 3 copies of Nightmare Throne, 2 copies of Spirit of Yubel, 1 Nightmare Pain. I cut this down all the way to 1. I really do not want to draw this card. I want to be searching this all the time, and drawing it is just so like mediocre at best. I just think the Yubel package should be as minimal as possible because the other cards feel so much stronger at what they do. And then the 1 Fabled Worry, 1 Yubel, 1 Terra Incarnate, 2 Samsara D Lotus. Again, it's the same reason the Yubel cards are by themselves not as strong. You want combinations of a lot of different things for this deck's power to really come to fruition. 2 copies of Dark Beckoning Beast, 1 copy of Chaos Summoning Beast, 1 Sharvara, 3 Opening of the Spirit Gates. So we switched the ratio for Dark Beckoning Beast and Opening the Spirit Gates because Opening Spirit Gates is so much better than Opening of Dark Beckoning Beast because it works as a so much better extender as opposed to Dark Beckoning Beast. But you can still do the combo also with it, if you play the Chaos Summoning Beast, so you can go opening into Dark Beckoning Beast into Chaos. So now it's like all of these are the same, right? It doesn't matter which one you open anymore. 1 copy of Terraforming for Nightmare Throne, 2 copies of Gruesome Grave Squirmer, 3 Ash Blossom, 1 Abominable Chainer of the Unchained, 3 Veiler, 3 Droll, 3 Imperm, and 1 Called By. Again, I think Droll is going to be very, very popular for the NAWCQ in main decks. Going on to the extra deck, I have 1 copy of Verudris, 1 copy of Lacrimosa, 1 copy of Requiem, 1 copy of Sequentia, 2 copies of Phantom of Yubel, 1 copy of DDD Highwave King Caesar, 1 copy of Yama, 1 Rage, 1 Muckraker, 1 SP Little Knight, 1 Anguish, 1 copy of Appaloosa, 1 SP Little Knight, and 1 Reproductus. This is probably the weirdest card in this extra deck by a mile, and I promise you it is in here for a reason, but this is really, the main purpose of this being in here is if we do not get the copy of Moon of the Closed Sky in Infinite Forbidden. If this card is not an import in that set, you are able to still use the Yubel cards to get into a little bit of a Fiendsmith line with Reproductus, because this changes the attributes. This is something that I realized while I was trying to figure out combos and math some stuff out. Being able to do this can let you end on a pretty good board. So yeah, that is like, that's only if this card doesn't come out. If this card does come out, switch out Reproductus for this card because it is just way better. You do not have to use an extra body for the going into the Fiendsmith line. So it's something to keep in mind. Also, you can definitely play the other Fiendsmith monster as well, the big one. The card is still really good. It's just not in this. But all these cards are so good. The extra deck is so tight for this deck. It is strictly dependent on what you are trying to do. So things like Iris, Beatrice, Chaos Angel, Access Code, Third Phantom of Yubel, Amirage, all these cards can be played, and there's probably still more that I'm missing, but as of now, these are all cards that can be played, and the end board is always changing. You could play the Abominable Chamber with the Raging Graveyard, you can end on Appaloosa, you can end on the Ira, you can end on Chaos Angel, Beatrice, you can end on Appaloosa. There's so many things that this deck can end on, the Caesar, of course. And there's really not one way to do it, or Verudis as well with the Phantom of Yubel. All of these cards are endable, and there's no standard of what it's going to be yet. So it is important that you know how to interact with all of them, right? Like all of these cards is important to know to interact with. So again, these are all cards you have to keep in mind when you're playing against Yubel as a whole. The last thing I wanted to go over was the Unchained package. You can expand on it and get more extenders, but maybe adding the Aruhas, adding the other trap card, and adding the Rhoda spell card for Unchained. So you get like a bigger Unchained package to maybe do a little bit more. Again, there is literally fiend piles that you can make now because of Fiendsmith and Yama being so generic. You just can do so much now. And it is no exception with more Unchains as well. So it's just something to keep in mind. Oh, also Escape can be played as another interruption too for this. So just something else to keep in mind. So many things, so many things. So yeah, that is it for the actual deck and the card by card and things you have to keep in mind, because there is so many different things that they can do now. You really, like, maybe Dark Ruler is better, right? Because we have things like Verudis, Rage, the Fiendsmith cards, Phantom of Yubel, like Dark Ruler could be a card that actually interacts very well against Yubel, right? So it is important to keep in mind that you need different, you have to think about how you are going to counter this. If you're going to go hand traps, if you're going to need to stop them before they make their board, or if you're going to go board breakers, maybe you're playing something like Tempai and you want to play something with more of a board breaker heavy. Maybe something like Droplet could be really good into a deck like this. Just something that you need to keep in mind when you're building your deck for this event. So yeah. That is going to do it for the actual deck. I want to show you this 1.5 card combo with Nightmare Throne, because Throne is definitely the best starter in this deck by a mile. So let's go ahead and jump right into that. Okay guys, like I said, this is just a Nightmare Throne combo and one discard, so I have this Ash Blossom here as a discard for later, but let's go ahead and jump right into it. So we are going to go Nightmare Throne to summon out the Lotus. I'm turning that volume off because that's going to get annoying. Use Lotus effect, summon Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel effect, get Nightmare Pain, pop Spirit. Add back Grave Swarmer, then use Throne and Spirit to summon Terror Incarnate and Yubel. Then you're able to link off those two into Yama. Use Yama's effect to search Shavara. Yama is your 5th summon here, so if they Nibiru you, it's fine. If they don't, they're going to not pretty much never be able to use Nibiru. So just something to keep in mind, because you are going to immediately fusion summon for Phantom of Yubel out of the graveyard. Very gross. And then from here, since you control a fiend, you are able to summon Squirmer. then you're able to link the Squirmer and the Yama off into Reproductus. Again, we are not locked into Fiends. This deck actually, surprisingly, does not lock you that much. Only Sharvara and Muckraker are the only two cards that lock you, and you can do this pretty early and be able to avoid it. So we're going to make Reproductus here, use the Grave Squirmer and Graveyard, bring back Spirit of Yubel, special summon Sharvara, popping the Spirit of Yubel, using the Spirit of Yubel and the Yama now to bring back the Spirit and then summon out Yubel from the deck. Then we are able to use Reproductus to make Spirit of Yubel a white monster. Then we can link off the Reproductus and the Sharvara for the Rage, use the Sharvara to be able to get the Abominable Chamber, and then we can link off Spirit of Yubel for the Requiem. Obviously, this takes a white fiend monster, but we used the effect of Reproductus to make it a white monster. So now the Spirit of Yubel is a white monster, so we're able to get into a little bit of a Fiendsmith package. Why is this important? Because it gets you to another level 6 monster that also counts as 2 bodies, which is the Fiendsmith. So now you can link off the Fiendsmith and the Rage to go into the Muckraker. You can use the Muckraker, bring back the Sharvara, and discard the Ash Blossom. Then you can use Fiendsmith's effect in Graveyard to put back the Requiem and go into the DDD. Also, this keeps your Fiendsmith engine completely alive in your deck. You did not really use any of it. Having a Fiendsmith in the Graveyard is actually super beneficial. So, again, you can definitely still do more Fiendsmith and more combos later. You have so much more extension and more powerful cards in your extra deck for later. This is just a M board that you can do out of many that you can do. Then we are going to go to the end phase, bring back the Samsara D Lotus and get rid of the Muckraker, and that is pretty much going to be your M board. This is pretty strong. I really like this M board, and being able to access the Fiendsmith cards without actually having to draw them without using the Closed Sky card, I think is pretty cool if we don't get it. It is something that could be used and abused later on by other decks, but for now, this is pretty cool. I like this. So our M board interruptions, right? We have Phantom Yubel to change a monster effect. We have Samsara D Lotus to change a monster effect. We have DDD to negate 2 effects that special summon, so that's 2 more. We also have the Abominable Chamber to bring back the Rage, and then Rage link away with your opponent's monster, so that's 5. Then we are able to use the on-summon effect of SP Little Knight that we're making with the Rage to banish another card, so that's 6. Then we have SP Little Knight's other effect that is going to banish another monster that they have until the end of the turn, so that is 7. You might think that the SP Little Knight's effects banishing is not going to come up in this deck because they can just attack over it. Well, we still have Nightmare Pain, so it's going to be very difficult to get rid of it as well. So we have 7 interruptions with this M board, very strong. Obviously, we do not have Appaloosa, but I don't think it's necessary, and because a lot of the times you end with Appaloosa and you have 2 negates on it. Well, we have Lotus and Phantom Yubel here that are going to act as negates for monster effects. So I really don't think it's that necessary, and most of the time Caesar is also going to be able to negate monster effects that are trying to special summon, so I just don't think it's that necessary. But this is a M board that I think that is cool to keep in mind, and actually utilizing Reproductus to get into your Fiendsmith package I think is very interesting, and I have not seen it online like at all, so it's just something to keep in mind. I think it's very cool. Again, all of the different interruptions are very important to keep in mind and ways to deal with them. So overall, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know how you guys are playing Yubel down below and how you guys are countering Yubel for the NAWCQ as well down below. I am very curious, and I love sharing this information so that other people like myself or viewers can look at this and see it before the event and hopefully get some ideas for their deck lists to play in the event. So again, hope you guys enjoy. Please subscribe if you did, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.